here we are back again, talking about how to put on proper order for the people of Earth. And the solution in our methodology is to create several banks that we manage ourselves through groups of indigenous people in each place where they still have preserved their sacred cultures. And I will show you how we have done it here in the Baltic Sea region by two examples of Latvia and Sweden. But to start with, I will exercise the very structure of how we criminalize these financial structures that are feeding the world war. So we don't criminalize people, we criminalize corporations. And every person in those corporations will be gently and lovingly treated to find a wonderful place in their life after the work in these war-creating corporations. This is not criminalization as usual. This is not Nuremberg trial at all. This is a loving process of criminalizing nuclear war systems and putting into place systems of love, peace and understanding. And everybody in the previous systems will be treated with love, peace and understanding. So there is only win-win situation for everybody on our planet. So get on with this project and make it happen. Everybody will be better off. So what the thing is that we have been developing these networks. You can find in the previous Criminalized Nuclear War Systems Conference, number 1, from Jurmala in Latvia, you can see those videos and materials, how to do these things, very well explained. Now I would like to show to you a structure that wasn't shown in the previous presentation, and this is nuclearjustice.org, where we have International Committee on Nuclear Justice. And that is International Committee that was formed on the 7th of December 2011 by attendees of International Conference of Environmental Engineers and Scientists in Vilnius, holding 3-day seminars in the houses of Lithuanian Parliament and Vilnius municipality. And the original 24 committee members were doubled after the independent World Health Organization conference in Geneva, 12th to 13th of May 2012. Now collecting a full scope of global knowledge, scientists from Japan, UK, Switzerland, Russia, Belarus, Ukraine, Sweden, United States, and so on. There were environmental NGO leaders from France, Germany, Sweden, Finland, and together we work to make all radioactive materials of our planet safe. And International Committee on Nuclear Justice works to provide scientific, technical and expert support for members of the public and non-governmental organizations interested in the health effects of ionizing and non-ionizing radiation, as well as to advance for the public benefit the science of radiation risk and create a system of independent competence in all areas of expertise relating to the development of nuclear technologies, environmental radiological contamination, radiation contamination, and the effects from these processes on human health and ecological safety, as well as to devise strategies to employ international and national legal frameworks to address any necessary outcomes of research which shows harm resulting from nuclear technologies, environmental radiological contamination, and effects on human health and ecological safety, as well to provide independent educational material to society in all the above areas. And the trouble with working in these lovely committees is that there is no funding for independent research, as we already said. And these magnificent experts are getting aged now, and there is fast, rapid need to give them possibilities to teach the next generation how to save the planet from radiological disaster, from uranium that is getting evaporating around the surface of our planet. That is radioactive for 4 billion years, the just half-life, and 10 times more, 40 billion years it will be radioactive, generally. So you see, it's forever. And we have to preserve ourselves alive so that we can protect the planet from these radioactive substances, that this absolutely outrageously insane industry that calls itself nuclear power, but generally is providing nuclear weapons, has created for not only for humans but also for all living systems. So this International Committee on Nuclear Justice is in place, and we are all working to criminalize nuclear war systems. And generally, there is a furthermore trouble with this, because scientific is fine, but if you don't have the money to exercise your scientific findings, you can't put them into place. So science becomes impotent because of financial system. So we were looking furthermore for solutions. What are more solutions to reach the reality impact? And the only true method that we found that really works is the divine connection. That is where we went on after exercising international committees, having the courts, even as Christopher LaBie told you, in the Royal Courts of London, and so on, and in Geneva, being with parliamentarians. It all sort of ends with very little or nothing. So we are even now working with the connection of higher forces. That has been going on for the last 2 years. We are experimenting on this, and we have very good results. That's why we suggest that this new monetary system is connected to the forces of light, forces of peace, love, and understanding, as there is very definite proof that the American dollar, just dollar bill, is an occult piece that has all kinds of Satanist symbols on it. And to leave the planet in such a means of exchange is just undemocratical. So that is one of the ways to look at it. there cannot be that American dollar with these occult symbols on it is the only exchange for any currency in the world. And there is no other coverage for any currency right now. So what we suggest is you can do otherwise, but we in the Baltic Sea region suggest to have money that is called Baltic Indigenous runes, which are pre-Christian signs, which will bring you into connection with higher forces if you cast them and give you any answers to any questions. So the coins might have runes on them, so you can cast them in perfect harmony with the divine forces. And the bigger transactions of as property buying or sales, you can issue tally sticks, which we have done in Baltic Sea region and are using now as payment, sending them to various corporations, teaching them to accept Indigenous money. This is very interesting that they sort of try to neglect it. And what we have found out is that they have automated the whole process of digitalization of money. And only the people who work for corporations get their money that is digital, and only the people who work for corporations get any money now. And other people who want to work for their own families or for Indigenous tribes or for community that is sort of local don't get any money at all. So this is actually corporate dictatorship situation. It is a digital corporate dictatorship situation. And like nothing else before, it is killing people and leaving them in distress with diseases. We have never had such a inquisitorial, total dictatorship before, and it's planetary. And they simply can close your bank accounts for any simple thing that you haven't paid some dues to somebody. They don't even bring you to court. They close your bank accounts, and then you don't have possibility to do any digital transactions. You don't have money for food or anything. So it is there in place now already in the whole Baltic Sea region. This is, if any, a murderous system, and it is part in the nuclear war systems, this financial system, as it is approaching the possibility of nuclear war. As, for example, we have been working so tightly for something like 10 years now to investigate safe solutions for nuclear predicament, but it is totally ignored. The projects are not being financed, and we people who work with these issues don't get any financing. We are left without any possibility to pay for internet or for electricity. We are left with nothing, no means at all, no salaries, no food. Right now when I'm talking to you, I live without electricity, I live without internet. And I haven't eaten bread for several months. We are living still on previous year's potatoes. So it is total dictatorship. And we are the last people not to accept it. Most of the people have jumped into the corporations to survive. Those who haven't have left Latvia, and that is most of the productive people. Almost half of the population of Latvia has left Latvia, and that those are the productive people who are working in the feudal systems of Europe and the whole world. This is again a sight like we have never seen before. Never, never before. And if you think that it is peace here, it's not. They are lying to you. This is deep Cold War situation where I'm talking to you from. This is a death camp. Baltic Sea region is a death camp. And it has nothing to do with Russia or United States trying to conquer each other. This is a new world order situation. This is what they have been planning for 100 years, Federal Reserve Bank of the United States. After 3 world wars, they will have all resources, and so indeed. This Cold War hasn't finished since they were established. Federal Reserve Bank was put in place on 1913, and just after they started with the First World War, 1914, because they could not then print how much money they wanted. That's what is wrong with the planet. And since 1914, we have been exterminated here very rapidly. My grandfather's family, there were 8 children in the family, and the families were 11 there, 2. Normal family was 6 children family 100 years ago. Last 100 years, our families have become 1, 2 kids, rarely 3. Those are called big families. So this is not West and East. This is Federal Reserve Bank versus humanity versus planetary living systems. So what we need to do, we need to create Indigenous World Bank and criminalize, we do criminalize Federal Reserve Bank. That is waging world war already, more than 100 years. And then we need to create central banks that commit to the local governments. Not right like they are commit now only to Bank of International Settlements, International Monetary Fund and Federal Reserve Bank. All of these 3 corporations are criminalizable and they have to be left on vacation. They have to sort of, what is the word? When you sort of let them, the corporation switches into pieces. It has to sort of
disperse?
Disperse, that is the word I was looking for, yeah. So these corporations have to disperse peacefully, and Indigenous people of every location have to help them to find new meaningful lives without any anger, without any horrid processes on the families that are working in these corporations that have brought us so close to extinction. Furthermore, we need Indigenous banks that do their own private banking, cooperative banking. So these are 3 types of banks that we need to change in the system, and you better start working on those. And furthermore, to put on to stop feudal system, we need to put on basic income salaries, and the easiest way to start with it is giving indigenous people indigenous salaries as fast as possible as the first stage of this transition. And when these indigenous people have then the time and peace to heal themselves, their families, and do the work they find very important to do, then they will lead you to do the transition of all groups, and everybody will get basic income. Because as basic income projects have proved, people don't start sort of doing addictions and being lazy, vice versa. They stop doing addictions and they are more productive and effective, and their lives and lives of their families and their local communities prospered. And very important is, of course, that local communities, councils and governments of the countries also start working to do these transitions, because they have everything to win. Right now, you governments, people, you don't have the means to govern beautifully your countries, because your banks have been conspired away. They have been sort of overtaken, as it is in Latvia and Sweden, and in the whole Baltic Sea region and Europe. They have been overtaken by all sorts of globalist forces, very often Jesuits involved secretly, and these banks have to be taken back to run by the governments. So you will be able to, governments will be able to emit money instead of banks. So the governments will have all possibilities to turn the countries into beautiful, prosperous communities. So furthermore will be with the local councils. Even the local councils will have their own banks, and they will be capable of creating wonderful living for the people in their communities. We just have to get our banks back. That's a simple method, and we can indeed do it. So how do we put the law to get our banks back? First of all, there are all sorts of war crimes that have been committed during these 3 world wars. Cold is going on right now in our region. But the third one, you could say it never stopped even for 100 years. But anyway, however you define it, it's war crimes. Why these banks have to be dispersed into local government units. And there is a wonderful web page called Don't Bank on the Bomb that provides lots of information on which and how the banks are engaged in nuclear weapons production. And furthermore, there is a fabulous Helen Caldecott Foundation conference from the United States that I have already referred on a year ago on the first Criminalized Nuclear War Systems Conference. But I will now read up the very fallback information that we have trouble with, that have overtaken our market in Sweden and in Latvia. So this is from Don't Bank on the Bomb. Summary of Swedish investments. The report found that 4 Swedish financial institutions are substantively involved in financing nuclear weapons companies. They are LaBie.lv, Skandinaviska Enskilda Banken ACB, Svenska Handelsbanken, and Swedbank. In October 2011, Nordea Bank provided a loan of an estimated $46.3 million to Rolls-Royce, which is part of a joint venture in the United Kingdom to develop a new class of nuclear-armed submarines. It is also involved in the maintenance of the existing fleet of Vanguard-class submarines. In December 2010, Skandinaviska Enskilda Banken provided a loan of an estimated $131.7 million to BAE Systems, which is also involved in the development of a new class of nuclear-armed submarine for the United Kingdom, and is part of a joint venture that produces nuclear missiles for the French Air Force. In April 2011, it provided a loan of an estimated $111.4 million to EADS, which produced submarine-launched nuclear missiles for the French Navy, and is part of the joint venture that builds nuclear missiles for the French Air Force. In July 2010, Svenska Finans International, part of Svenska Handelsbanken, provided a loan of an estimated $37.5 million to General Dynamics. Svenska Handelsbanken also made a loan of an estimated $78.1 million to General Dynamics in July 2011. General Dynamics provides maintenance, engineering, and technical support for U.S. nuclear-armed submarines. It built the Ohio-class submarines for the U.S. Navy, many of which are equipped with Trident nuclear missiles. Swedbank owns shares worth $62.7 million at November 2011 in Jacobs Engineering. Jacobs owns a 1/3 share in the atomic weapons establishment, which designs, manufactures, and maintains the nuclear warheads for the United Kingdom's Trident submarine launch, intercontinental ballistic missiles. Swedbank also owns shares worth $840,000 in the Red Hall Group, which is involved in mechanical and engineering activities in the British ABE, including the assembly of nuclear warheads. So this is just one example of important banks here in the Baltic Sea region that have colonized the region and overtaken our lives and are leaving us through the digital money system without bread and water. Yeah, actually, even without water. It is a miracle that I'm still alive, because I'm not working for any corporation that is occupying my native lands, the lands of my divine predecessors. And I will not submit to these dark forces. And I will, as I promised, provide to you a system that you, though, have to put into place. But it is a system that is very simple, and you can put it into place. You just have to do something. You can't watch their hypnotizing movies and TVs and listen to media, because it's totally corporate now. So, what do you do? First of all, you create your own indigenous society in your local area, find indigenous people, help them to organize themselves, and put together a court, Indigenous People's Court. We had it with 9 judges Judges have to be loving, competent, and loyal to the Indigenous people. Three main parameters. And then you can put on committees, various committees in that NGO that start competently protecting the environment in various areas. We have such committees as Finances Committee that deals with the banks. We have Life Committee that deals with issues of health. We have Environmental Committee. We have Kin or Pond Committee that helps the families, for example, and so on and so forth. You put on the committees that will help you to protect your people. And there is a declaration on the rights of Indigenous peoples that is provided to us by United Nations, and it was declared on the 13th of September 2007, and 170 countries have signed it. So that particular declaration is very powerful. It says that all Indigenous people have the right to live by their own laws and in their own social economical systems. Which means that if government comes and says, oh, you have to obey us, you say, no, we don't. We can live as our predecessors did. And so you can hold your courts and establish your own money and start living by your own rules and with your own money. But you really have to stick to it. And when you start doing this, you start to pay with your own money, you start to live in your own rules, and you bring this to the official courts, and you win those courts by your rights to live as your predecessors did, and not to submit to this global digital dictatorship of a cult US dollar. And here in Baltic Sea region, we have created these Baltic Indigenous rules, yeah? And what the tricks that global corporation Inquisition is using are very simple tricks with words, with signs, and with cards. You know how you can find people who can cheat in cards? So that is what they've done. They have created this mendacious, duplicitous system with lies about the meaning of the words, with tricks with cards, credit cards, and with tricks about that there are countries that you have a say in, that you have a democratical rule in, which most of us know is a lie. But these are exactly the words and the cards and the countries that we have to take into our management. So how do you do that? First of all, you have to create powerful words, you have to know the powerful words that will bring back the power of true divine existence. Then you have to create money that is really means of exchange between people, that is governed by the people themselves and is not emitted by some Federal Reserve Bank or central bank that is owned by the Federal Reserve Bank. Yeah? Like right now, all 170 central banks of the world are owned by Federal Reserve bankers, which is totally dictatorial, totalitarian order, new world order. And you have all right to resist this. But for that we have to create an order that stops using this money that only can be transferred into it, that the only coverage for is this dollar. We have to create money that has true divine purpose. So, right now we are sort of floating in the ghetto of lies, and we are living in a death camp, because we are all planned to be, and we are being exterminated if we don't submit to the corporate work market and don't work for them. Or if we don't find a nice cozy place. So this is degradation both of poor and rich. Even the rich are being degraded, and the rich feel bad too, because they can't live the divine true lives. They have to, yes, they are comfortable, they have easy means of getting their sort of bonds and stakes and share money, but it is all a trick. This trick with shares and bonds, it's all a trick. Yes, you have easy access to nice money, but you are just covering up for the big bankers to run those corporations where you are having nice profit in. You are just used, you're just being used for them to make profit. And it is scientifically designed, this trap. So it is indeed convenient and easy nowadays to get rich and live very easy, filthy rich lives. And it is so hard to say, oh no, this is not right. I'll try to do something else. I will not go on with this type of living that is killing the planet. Because you can't really see that you are involved in it. And so it is also with education. There are so many wonderful people in education and in all sorts of universities and whatnot. But if you look in general, all this education where you have to sit on your ass is just sick, just sickening. And our children shouldn't be going to schools from morning to evening, sitting there. It's just totally, incredibly wrong. Children should be living with their families in the middle of nature, having properties to run and to manage. That's life and outgrowth in motion, not sitting. It is even proven that sitting for long periods like it is now done handicaps people and makes them ill, both in the work and in schooling. So all this methodology, scientific used to beslave the planet now. And we have this Beta Kappa society that you can find on the internet, Beta Kappa society, with 3 stars, which of course transfer to Vatican, City of London bankers, and Washington, D.C., the Pentagon. So this is the planetary threesome of countries that all 3 are really independent, but they have colonized all others. And we have to shave them off our neck and the neck of our Mother Earth and give them vacation. So nuclear war systems. What is the concept of nuclear war systems? It is not just criminalizing nuclear weapons. It is the whole matrix of systems that we live in now that has led us into fear from nuclear weapons and into the possibility of nuclear extinction. Because a system that is so dangerous has to be redesigned. And together we can do it. So nuclear war systems is the whole matrix of the systems, social economical systems of the world. We have to see through them and erase the dangerous ones. We don't have to do any dramatical moves. We can do it phasing out the old system, but we have to really proclaim the Indigenous world order now, which I do now. Indigenous world order is hereby proclaimed. And what we can use to create a good order is this hippie times booklet of Manifesto for a Sustainable Society by the Greenies of the United Kingdom. So what they do here is they have letters to each parameter of society, and to that letter you will find numbers attached about the aspects that have to be done to improve that parameter. And each parameter is furthermore discussed in background and principles, long-term aims, short-term aims, policies, environmental health hazards, education and aims, So here is quite a nice matrix of the whole nuclear war systems spectrum that we are suggesting to use, but of course improving it with your own needs in your local societies. Then there is this aspect about tricks with cards. I would like to make you understand that all the money that is created now is created by criminalizable structures. And for these criminalizable structures to let us to start healthy money, we need to prove to these structures, of course, that their way is not working. And that's where we come in with the analysis of nuclear extinction. And it is not a nuclear war extinction, it is actually ongoing pollution that is extremely dangerous. And even a little solar flare would put an end to all life on Earth, as it would stop the coolers of radioactive waste from working and cooling the radioactive waste. And in a week's time, it all would be cooking and polluting around the planet, getting it into the breathing systems of the planet. And that would be enough. We can't sort of afford this. We really need the very best systems in place. And these corporations have not managed to put acceptable solutions, and furthermore, they want to get rid of most of the planet's inhabitants, to get rid of competition from other people, and depopulation is an ongoing factor, and demographic disaster and cliff is well known. And as soon as we create indigenous salaries and indigenous people start to create even citizen salaries or resident salaries for everybody, there will be a shift. There will be a new group of independent people who will be able to work for the good and not for the corporations. So get on with that work and start emitting your money yourself. So what do? You go to the forest, you find you get can you zoom in? You just get some kind of pieces of wood that are raw, wet wood, so that it is rough here. Don't smoothen it. But the other side, you cut off and smoothen both other sides. And here, you print seals of your regional con. Somebody you trust, who is loving, competent, and loyal to the indigenous people. And who knows this methodology, who knows the sun model of the bolts and can put it into place, so you're totally protected. And then on such a stick, you put on two parts of the contract. Here is your pawn, or you yourself, and this is somebody you pay to. Here you put the number in your accounting, and that you do on both of them. And here on the other side, we write the number, the sum, here is the number, the amount of the money that you emit on both of them. So this one you give to your deal partner, and this other one you keep in your accounting. So nobody can forge this. This is type of payment proof that has been used in Europe for thousands of years, that we have restored. This is our own version of it. You can use this type, you can find your own. There are lots of different tally sticks on internet. From Switzerland, Austria, England, where they have been used before. Furthermore, we suggest to use runes as to exchange coins. As you see, we are talking wood instead of metal or paper. Here are the runes. Here is the Book of Runes, where you can translate them. Here is a Russian version of runes translation, which is quite complicated. It's a scientifical, breathtaking, conceptual description, but this picture describes it quite well. And here are the runes, 25 runes, wooden runes, that we could turn into coins, which would mean the end of occult Satanist dollar. We could create the divine rune money. And whenever you need divine advice, you would then cast something and you would get an answer from the gods.
bird though.
Yeah, it looks like yin and yang, doesn't it? Here is a little book where you can sort of read what your answer meant. That's for casual. And if we talk still English, then there is the Last of the Druids book. And the Celts. Exploring the world of the Celts. The Celts of Ireland. These are the houses they built. We are watching now at these houses, thinking to build such ones on our island in Riga, because we have no means of money yet. But it's better to live in such a house than to be a slave in a corporate dictatorship. Yeah, and here is a book about old Latvian writings. And we have the word in Latvian that says runa, which means speech. And it comes from the word rune. And there are runes all over Europe to be found. There are Slavic runes and holy writings and Viking runes. It's about to restore the holy orders. Unfortunately, now we have the metallic era of money, called metallic dead. It's also very industrialized wood. It's that paper is. We will see. Of course, it would be nice to get to the point where you could trust digital systems again. But until we get there, we haven't gotten there. We will have to use these wooden pieces because we can't give up our lives and be slaughtered by digital inquisition just for some comfort of shareholders and these mendacious, duplicitous people that have found the way how to fool us with their lies, with their cards. These credit cards called Visa and MasterCard. Do you know what that means? They are corporations. They don't sort of emit money in a divine way. It is all trick of cards, and all the money that you get on your card
is just emitted by some liberties overtaking corporations. And we thought that it was a convenient way to use our money, but it is not. It is a trick of cards by which they have enslaved us. And the next level is, of course, they're planning to chip us as well, which they have already done in many working places in Sweden. Already they've chipped people. They're opening doors and getting messages with chips. Yeah. It is all described in Adolf Huxley's book, The Brave New World. It is very well described how we came to this by Max Weber in his huge epic work called Economy and Society, where he has described why the ruling classes, how the ruling classes have ruled the world for thousands of years in the shadows, by using charismatic people to pretend that those rule, but they are just puppets. And their plan is now fully speeded, and the world war is fully on, and it's up to us to choose if we will accept this or become the saviors of our Mother Earth. So please, look around you. Look at the young, fertile people around you and protect them. Love your families. Restore them. Restore your kings and cons. If you don't have any person who can become a person that you trust, you have a choice to become a person that others trust. The only person we can make the impact on is myself. I never was a queen. I did not get born into a royal family. But when I saw that my people do need a queen, they do need somebody who can give useful, wise orders how to create great society, I chose to make myself into such a person because of the lack of it. And it has been enormous work to get to the point where it is quite clear what to do. It has been extremely hard work, but I am very blessed to have been so glutton for wisdom and have had means to learn that I do really thank the higher forces for this hard life, and I thank them for these big possibilities. order of peace, love and understanding. But you have to take part in it, and you have to make yourself to be capable of doing it. And when so I have even found this brooch with 14 hearts. It is an ancient brooch here in the ancient Latvia. And when I am competent to achieve all 14 parameters, then I can put it on me. And when I do know how to achieve peace, love and understanding society, then I do crown myself, because I do know that I can. I am the corner. And so you get to the point where you calm yourself. Be the calm or the corner that your people need. Because it is far too much work for anybody, one. Even though we have the higher forces with us, we need to become many. So trusting in the gods, let it be so. Let the Indigenous world order to be established and thrive.